Of course, there is one branch of music that's been depending on electronics for years. Okay, the band I sing with are just amateurs in the pop business, but even we rely on a fair bit of technology.
I'm sure you all want to know who makes the lineup for our popular beat combo tonight.
Some of it's been around a long time. The electric guitar, for instance, goes back to the 1940s.
Over on keyboards, the maestro Ben E. Thompson.
And even the synthesizer is nearly as old.
On saxophone, Kid Silo.
But it's the latest high-tech equipment that makes all the difference to our lineup.
And on brass, on drums, on bass, on backing vocals, and just about the lot, the very versatile, the lovely digital sequencer.
And of course, top bands are often dwarfed by their technology on stage. But most of the pop music we hear comes from records, and the technology involved in creating them these days is really amazing. In fact, while Britain's serious composers feel badly off for electronic facilities, the highly successful British pop industry has built some of the best equipped studios in the world. This one must be very close to the top. It's Trevor Horn's studio in West London. And it was from here, for example, that Frankie went to Hollywood on their famous Wall of Sound. In the world of pop, new fashions are being created all the time by the people who make the records. That one was produced by Steve Lipson, and he's now working on a new single. It's a song by Thomas Lear, who, together with Claudia Brucken, form a new duo called ACT. For their first single, Steve's already laid down 24 separate instrumental tracks, without going near a single conventional instrument. A lot's changed in the 20 years since the Beatles were making records, when the instruments were real and the recording on magnetic tape. Steve, that sounds great so far. You've already got 24 tracks together. Now, I don't see a tape recorder, so where are those sounds all coming from?
Well, they're recorded in a 200-track digital memory recorder, which is in here.
So you've got 24 different sounds. Could you perhaps play one or two from different tracks?
Yes, certainly.
So that's what? A synthesizer?
That's a synthesizer, which this machine is controlling that synthesizer over there.
And those are drums?
Yeah, they are sampled drums.
So all those fit together, all the 24, to make the sound that you've got
Yeah.
so far. Now, you mentioned synthesized sounds and sampled sounds. Synthesizers have been around for quite a while, and the sound that they make are just electronically generated signals, aren't they? But
Yeah.
what's sampling about?
Sampling is digitally recording sound, be it a note or a phrase. For example, I have a bass guitar here that I sampled there, and I can play it up and down the keyboard and sequence it and make a bass guitar out of it.
So after recording just one note from a real bass guitar, the computer can then generate any note up and down the scale?
Yeah.
Okay, but how exactly does it do that?
Well, it slows the sample down when I go down, and it speeds the sample up when I go up.
So you're able to control what sounds like a real instrument just on your own on that keyboard?
Yeah.
So the computer now contains a whole series of different sounds, doesn't it? But How does it know when to play them?
Well, we've spent a while programming the computer to trigger these sounds in different pitches for different durations. And if you look here, we have a whole load of staves that show this programming.
So you've written that score into the computer note by note, have you?
Note by note.
Now that presumably means you can play around with the different parts, does it?
It means basically you've got complete control over everything. You can change the pitches, you can change the timing of one track relative to another, you can change the sounds when you're nearing the end of the project. It gives you complete manipulation of the music.
Could you give us a for instance, perhaps, of how you might change the feel of something?
Yeah, well, if we take the bass and drums as an example, I'll play a little bit of them and change the position of the snare relative to everything, which would shift the timing. It's gone completely out of time. That is a ludicrous thing to do, and we wouldn't obviously do it. But the possibilities are enormous with that sort of flexibility of changing the feel of the music we're working on.
And can you play around with voices in the same way?
Oh, certainly. We've sampled a singer who's sung these notes and put them in.
Now, how much work have you got to still put in before this becomes a single?
Oh, quite a bit. We want to put on some real instruments, real people, give it a bit of feel. In that respect, could take anything up to 2 weeks. Come back in a fortnight and see where we're up to.
So for Steve, the computer offers total control and the chance to create those new and unusual sounds that we've come to expect from pop. But the large and expensive studios are no longer the only option for the pop artist. For musicians and composers up and down the country, what's really exciting is that along with all computer gear, the essential equipment is forever shrinking in size and price. So there's a whole range of new instruments they can play at home. You're best known as a member of Ultravox, but also a solo artist. He's preparing songs for his next album with a deceptively simple setup.
Now you could buy everything that's here for around £7,000 or £8,000 and do it at home. You just do not have to go into massive recording studios. You record the majority of stuff here onto your computer. Then if you want to then put on vocals or a saxophone that you have to actually record with a microphone on tape, you just take your computer and your stuff into a major studio and synchronise it with the tape and then stick your vocals on and you've got your entire thing. All the groundwork can be done at home.
One electronic instrument can control another by using a digital language called MIDI, which all the equipment understands. It means, for example, the computer can send messages about what note is to be played and when. It's a bit like the modern version of the holes in a pianola roll. Even Midge's small personal computer allows him to record and experiment with up to 24 tracks of music. And with his latest toy, he can even pre-program the way the tracks sound together on a new miniature digital mixing console. But doesn't this mean that musicians are just turning into computer programmers?
Not at all. You've still got to be a musician to make any of this do what you want it to do, to try and put some sort of feel into music. You still have to have feel in your hands. I'm not a keyboard player by any stretch of the imagination, and although the system is set up with a keyboard player, I use a guitar most of the time to program this stuff, simply because I'm a guitarist and I can put more emphasis on what I play. This is the latest in guitar synthesis. It's although it looks roughly like a sort of Bo Diddley guitar, it's actually a synthesizer in its own right, but laid out in a guitar format. Within this there's 100 memories. It's a digital synth, again, like the rest of them, but being a guitarist, it's a lot easier for me to pick up and do things that sort of guitar-y sound, acoustic guitar stuff. So it's nice sounds, you sit and program all your own sounds and whatever. You can also use it as a master keyboard, a master instrument, instead of the keyboard here. So if you turn up that volume control over there, and I'll turn the volume control down here, you're going to get the same sound we were using earlier, but played on guitar.
Oh, brilliant. So that's using MIDI information to drive that synthesizer?
Yep.
Except on strings rather than keys?
Yep, absolutely.
What a great sound. And is there an advantage to be able to using strings rather than keys?
Yes, there's lots of things that you can do with a guitar-orientated instrument that you can't do on a keyboard. If I can find a sound. Because playing guitar is a very different style than playing a keyboard, so you're getting all the feel and movement that a guitarist would have, but played through an electronic instrument. The beauty of this package is it's so lightweight and portable that you can use it anywhere, which I'm going to be doing. I'm going to take it away to the Caribbean next week and do a bit of work out there. And when I come back and I've written whatever it is that I actually write, this is what I'll be bringing back. All the information, all the drum programs and all the melodies and counter melodies, and all my hard labour will be on this thing.
You must make sure you don't lose it then.
Or put it through airport security.
All this technology is leading music into some unexpected areas. For instance, sampling sounds is not confined to conventional instruments. This is the Ocean Waltz, with whales on drums, penguins on percussion, and seals playing lead. Here at London Zoo, the creators of that work, Peter Wilshire and Robin Lumley, are auditioning some more potential artists. That's a tremendous sound, isn't it? The stone curlew, how useful will that be to you?
Well, because it contains so much in the high frequency area, I'm sure we're going to be able to sample him and use him for lead instruments, like perhaps kind of guitar-y sounds, or maybe almost like into the vocal area.
So you could make a vocal sounding...
Oh yes, indeed we could, just by taking a very small fragment of his chord and then sampling it on this system that we use, and taking one bit at a time.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely incredible. What a wonderful sound sample that is. I mean, there's two different voices. It's got a bit of mid-range screaming right up to the top. It sounds like a horn. Like
This is the entire trumpet section. Now this is going to be interesting. It seems only fair to discover what the artists themselves make of this kind of music.